We're live. Hi, everyone.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we're live. I forgot to plug my mic in as well. Ugh, such a rush. Apologies. Oh, and by the way, I'll wait for a few people to jump on before I say this. I'll say it again in a minute. But for anyone that's eagle-eyed, I'm not Johnny. Because I think like the description and the thumbnail and everything like that said, it's Johnny. But I'm not Johnny, funnily enough. So right, let's say he actually, guys, put out the wrong time as well. I just feel like it's a bit of a shit show today.
Hey, and now you've said that, I'm going to have to mark it as not child friendly as well now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't you just edit it out?
Yeah, I'll edit it out. I'll edit it out. Remind me.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that. You should have done the please do not swear. I would have observed it, definitely. So hi guys, how are we doing? Give us a comment. I feel told off now. Give us a comment, let us know you can see and hear us okay. By the way, when I meant poop show, I meant like it's not that it's gonna be a poop show. I meant that it's like totally not organized because we had to change presenters. Victoria's Jay totally forgot. I've got that. It feels like it should be like a Friday or a Thursday. It doesn't feel like it's the start of the week. I think because now we're in officially Q4. I think the days are very much longer now in terms of output. So I'm finding myself like on Sunday, you got to pack more stuff in at the moment. So on Sunday, compared to what we've been doing over the summer, because obviously over the summer I've been spending it with the kids, haven't been, putting as much effort in, for want of a better word. But I think now I spent 5 hours Sunday afternoon and evening working. I worked yesterday from, 5 a.m. right up until cheerleader time, which was 5 o'clock. So, that's putting in a 12-hour. I've been working from 8 right up until now, and we'll be working a little bit later as well. I mean, I'm not on the hive tonight. So normally, but we would be working. What I'm saying is more hours are getting put in at the moment. So it feels like, and where the nights are drawn in, it feels like we're getting a bit more autumnal. And, I think it's a compounding effect. But I don't know if you're feeling it, Matt. Do you feel like more hours are needed at the moment? Certainly feels like that.
Never enough hours in the day, but I feel like, particularly, I think the weather and the darkness has made a big change. I feel like the days are shorter now. So I don't know if they feel like they're going quicker because they're technically obviously the same amount of hours in a day, but it feels short. The day feels shorter now. I've noticed definitely, certainly in the mornings, it feels like the days are a lot shorter, which means you're cramming more in to, even though it's the same amount of time, it feels like you're trying to get more into a shorter amount of time. Plus, obviously, I think as well with Q4, you've got that definite endpoint. Throughout the rest of the year, there's always tomorrow. There's always, it doesn't matter. There's always tomorrow. Whereas with Q4, there's that, right, if this stock is not in by November, it's not going to make Q4 kind of thing. So you've got that urgency now placed upon you because you've got that definite endpoint and you don't want to miss Q4 because you didn't pack the box that bit quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I definitely feel there's a bit of a difference. Let us know in the comments if you feel it too. So, yeah, totally getting the vibe. For some reason, I can't log into the other group. So you'll just have to be known as Facebook users for eternity and forever. Well, just for this week anyway. And I didn't plug my mic in. So it is what it is, Sometimes you just got to do it all without the bells and whistles. So hi guys, we've got Jay, we've got Ben, we've got Victorious, Paulina, Simon, Aaron. Afternoon, Aaron. Good to have you all here. Like I said, it's the start of Q4. Here we are. Couple of days in. How's everyone feeling? Do you know what? The funny thing is, right? Normally, I spend 9 months telling people about the trajectory of Q4 and what it's not going to do is you're not going to see an immediate impact. But I tell you what, since it's switched from September to October, the sales have gone through the roof. I don't know if anyone else has had that.
Yeah.
And that's not supposed to happen.
No, and also I think the sales are actually subdued as well from what they potentially could be, because most people will be waiting for Prime Day. Like, I know if I was going to buy something, I would wait until next week before pulling the trigger on something. Might not be, depends what you sell, of course. If you sell sort of more everyday items, it's probably not that much of effect. But those are certainly in the toy markets, electronics, probably the gift market, bundles, those kind of things. People are going to wait. They're going to wait and see if there's any promos on Prime Day, and then they're going to pull the trigger. So this conversation is going to be very interesting. Is it next Tuesday? Actually, when is it?
I have no idea.
It's next Tuesday. It starts next Tuesday, so it'll be an interesting.
So how long is it on? Right in my diary.
10th and 11th. It's on for 2 days. 10th and 11th, Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah, Prime Day. And I think it's going to be a big one this year, to be honest.
I think it's going to be, and this will be the third Prime Day, because they're still doing the Black Friday. I don't know if they call it Prime Day. They call it more Black Friday deals, don't they? This is obviously, they had the big one in July, which I think exceeded everybody's expectations, and then now we've got a surplus one, which is the first time it's been done, which is October. Whether we'll see quite the uplift we saw in July, because July is a much more well-known Prime Day. This is a bit more under the radar. I don't know, because Amazon is promoting it.
I agree.
Promoted as the July one is.
No, definitely not. And I almost think, actually, from Amazon's point of view, I kind of resent this Prime Day a little bit, because I almost think it's a little bit greedy on Amazon's part, because obviously I understand why they do it. They want to stagger the percentage of sales at different points throughout the year. But this almost feels like that part in Santa Claus the movie when John Lithgow, the baddie, turns around and says, "Christmas too." It's like they're trying to squeeze every sale out of, at different points throughout the year. They're trying to manufacture sales peaks in their business at different points of year, which of course they're a business, they're a corporation, biggest retailer, biggest company in the world. Of course they're going to, I'm not naive from that point of view, but sometimes this one just feels very manufactured. It feels very false against where the market should be. If that makes sense.
It does feel that, but it makes a lot of sense. Amazon, if you remember back to last sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Royal Mail were on strike. It was a disaster. Like, for most people who do merchant, the couriers were literally saying, we can't take any more parcels. DPD stopped operations. UPS stopped taking parcels for 3 days. So I think, yes, it's a manufactured sort of event, but I think the thought process of Amazon is, hopefully, if we can bring some more of them sales into October, rather than them all being within the space of 3 or 4 days, which just puts pressure and issues on everybody, maybe we can sort of smooth out the demand and give a better customer experience. Because I'll tell you, from my point of view, I love that there's so many sales in such a short space of time, but it puts so much pressure on the team from a fulfillment point of view, and the couriers. And we have so many more issues that shouldn't be issues, because people order something and they expect it to arrive in the time frame that it's been said it was, and your only excuse is, well, it's Black Friday and everybody else ordered on the same day and we can't cope. And it's just a bit of a rubbish excuse, really. So yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing from a sort of logistics back end point of view. Whether it will work, I don't know, but I think that's part of the reason that they've done this.
I think logistics are sucking a bit at the moment, to be perfectly honest, because, like, I'm ordering something, and we had this conversation previously on Nevermind the Buy Box, but I think the proof is in the pudding, in the sense that this is becoming a more reality. We talked about retailers that are now putting price points back on delivery. We've talked about, how things are taking longer to arrive. I pretty much, unless I'm ordering something from Next, or something where I have one of these subscriptions where you get like next day delivery and you pay like 30 quid or 50 quid a year or something like that, subscription sub. Unless it's something like that, I'm finding now the majority of things that are being delivered are taking anywhere between 3 to 5 days now. There's not a lot of companies that are delivering on a next day promise at the moment now, regardless of whatever you're spending. And some I bought from Selfridges a couple of weeks ago, and I was literally, it was quite high value basket, and there was no free delivery option at all. That was it. There was nothing.
Premium delivery.
I know, premium delivery, premium shop. I thought, Jesus, I hope I'm going to get someone turning up in a tux with my with my parcel, because it was like they seem to have gone premium across the board. Sorry, I just want to say hi. The formidable Mark Penn has joined us. Hello, Mark. Hope you're well. Hopefully coming on. Never mind the buy box soon. I think. Spoiler alert. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We need another Mark session for sure. Victoria says, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pop off and watch the replay off to Wilkinson's for the last day of closure. So yeah, get out RAing. I know, Matt, if you've no one watched it, you did I
did a video on Wilco's. There's a few little deals in there as well you might pick up on. Yeah, definitely get yourself out to Wilco's.
Always worth watching for sure. Simon, have we scrapped? Not we. I don't run Amazon. Have Amazon scrapped the criteria to do merchant fulfilled at Exmouth? Yeah, with sort of that's got scrapped over COVID, really, but they never really said it got scrapped. It just kind of didn't happen, and they haven't brought it back since, have they?
No. No. But what they have done, I'm sure most people have noticed, they're trying to push people towards using Amazon, not partnered carrier, but buying labels through Amazon. That's kind of been the trajectory, isn't it? And offering discounted labels through Amazon, and the buying your postage on Amazon, because obviously that never used to be an option. Like pre-COVID, you couldn't buy a label on Amazon; it wasn't possible. You could always buy them on eBay, but you couldn't buy them on Amazon. So that's something that they've really introduced and pushing quite hard. So I think they get that bit of control, but it's enough for them, I think, without necessarily having to put the requirements in place.
Yeah, I think they really liked that. They used to say, you couldn't just come in and rock up and count. They wanted to get rid of the part-time sellers who would only sell in toys and games, merchant fulfilled over Q4, like a hit and run kind of thing, on capitalizing on that. Whereas when COVID happened, they didn't want to put any type of restrictions in place. So of course, at that point, it was always going to be something they didn't have. But I expected it to be reinstated last year, which there's no reason why it shouldn't have been reinstated last year. And it hasn't. And we certainly haven't heard about it. And the dates would have been issued by now. So, yeah. I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I know Amazon is pushing these kind of the payment holds, which we were discussing, the base reserve policy on everybody. So I think that's partly their security, because the big concern, the reason they put these requirements in place, was that fraudulent sellers were popping up, selling the best toys that people wanted that they never actually had. PlayStation 5's the hottest toy of the year, taking the money and doing a bunk and disappearing, leaving customers really disappointed, because especially at Christmas, not only have you got disappointed customers, but you've got pissed off customers because their kids are disappointed, and there's nothing worse than an angry parent, I can tell you.
Oh, believe me, it's one of those kind of memes. Are you even a true seller unless you've had an angry message on Christmas Day from a customer accusing you of ruining their Christmas?
Yeah.
So we've all been there. We've all done that. So no, as far as I'm aware, it's no.
There used to be a requirement for toys and games as well, didn't there? But I don't think.
Yes, that's what I mean. Toys and
games. That's gone as well.
Yeah. Nothing, no restrictions in place as far as I'm aware of at the moment. A few more people have joined us. Sean's joined us. We've got two Seans in the house. Hello, double Sean. And we've also got Paulina. Des has joined us as well. Hi, Des. If anyone didn't see it, Des was a guest a few weeks ago on Nevermind the Buy Box. So please watch that one. It was a really, really insightful episode. I think, one of my favorites, definitely, in terms of, what we discussed and what we spoke about. Umar's joined us, as well as Richard. So hi, guys. Let us know how you're doing. At the start of this, we were talking about a little bit of an uptick that we've seen at the start of Q4, which, like I said, I spend my life warning people. It doesn't tick over on the 30th to instant, but I think from the 30th to like the 1st, we were about like 40% up. And I was thinking, right, okay, don't tell anyone that. No, I think it was more of an impact of what we're seeing as we had a lot of stock landing. We should start seeing a little bit more fluid motion of stock arriving and it going through. Richard said, I've only got 15 minutes spare before a job meeting. Okay. What a productive way to spend those 15 minutes, Rich. Definitely. Anyone's always welcome that wants to spend the time with us, sure. So so I think you should start seeing shipments opening up a little bit more now. And just a few other things. But do you know what? I just got a little bit of a glimpse into an insight of what I love. And when I say love, that is loosely to be interpreted as hate about this period of time, is Amazon in Q4 always find a new way of hell to inflict on their sellers, albeit restock limits, albeit FBA limits, declarations of conformities, and things like that. So they always find a way to spoil the party in Q4. And just a reminder of that dropped into my inbox literally before we came live. Sorry, just threw my pencil. And it appears in the US market that there seems to be some sort of new declaration or form of declaration of conformity for toys, which were going to be a big focus for us this year in Q4. Now, could be isolated incident, of course, but Amazon don't do things generally in isolated, incidents. So I'll find out a little bit more about it. And then obviously update accordingly for anyone that's selling in the US market and whether or not it's something that will be similar over here. But it looks like it's not just, it looks like it could be linked a little bit with account health as well, which we've not seen from safety document. We've seen it from safety documentation in terms of restricted products, but this looks like something new to me around toys, which is always fun. So yeah, I'll look into that a bit more. I know with Amazon, you've always got to expect the unexpected. And again, it's a bit like, for anyone that hasn't watched it last week, I put a new video on YouTube about our suspension. And for any of you that were around at the time when we went through it, hopefully one thing you'll say is we didn't kind of sweat it. We stayed quite calm throughout it, and that's for various reasons to talk about in the video. So if you haven't watched it, if someone can drop the link on the feed, go ahead and watch it, because I think, if anything, I think it's a testament of being in business and on Amazon for a long period of time, that you've got to always expect the unexpected, whether it's a suspension, whether it's something like this or whatever, and you just can't panic, and that's what I wanted that video more to be about, more than anything else. It's like, this is always going to happen, regardless of whatever form it comes in. Amazon are always moving the goalposts. So you've always got to expect it. So from this point of view, if it ends up being a pain in the ass, which, like I said, when certain titles come through with emails, you just know that it's going to be a fun time. And this looks like it could be one of them, which we weren't expecting, but we will always pivot around. It's as simple as that. And it's always going to continue to happen. So they're always going to do it. So you can never not become complacent. That's what I'm trying to say. And don't be surprised when it does happen. And I'm not a negative person. This is not me going on a negative Amazon rant. It is what it is. This is how Amazon operate. And this could be something, could just be this one product in the one market in the US, but it could also be a new wave of stuff that we have to deal with in all markets. So, we look at it that's how we always approach it, that it's something that could turn into something more anyway.
Yeah. That's the problem with these things, isn't it? But again, I don't know what this particular one is, but sometimes it's not Amazon's doing. You've got to understand as well that Amazon's just complying with legislation. And the thing as well with the problem with Amazon is a lot of legislation that's brought in is aimed at bigger businesses who can manage the legislation and manage the admin burden. But because Amazon's such a big business, it's often kind of gets third-party sellers get caught up in that because you sell on Amazon. So therefore, and Amazon fulfill your stock, you're therefore deemed to be like a little bit part of Amazon, and therefore you have to comply with all this legislation. So Amazon is always on the side of you have to comply rather than no, you don't. You are exempted from the legislation. So there's a lot of kind of we're seeing it particularly in the German market, sort of the waste recycling, things like that, and that's going to be coming to a lot more categories in European countries over the coming years. I think that's going to be a big headache for a lot of sellers managing the waste recycling. It is actually already exists in the UK, but currently it's only applied to like 50 million pound turnover businesses, but it's going to be applied to all businesses within the next few years. So it's going to be another challenge to overcome, but it's Amazon's playgrounds, it's Amazon rules, and also, like I said, some things that the Amazon brings in is not what Amazon wants to do, but it's forced to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, whether I talked about it on the video or the Hive or here, I can't remember. It's not like there's a board meeting of 12 people that turn around that has a title of how shall we ruin Amazon sellers' lives today? Which I sometimes think people do think that's the case. Like I said, it's more likely because its impact of bigger businesses has had a trickle-down effect, or it's Amazon doesn't want it. It doesn't want to restrict anyone. It doesn't want to give people IP claim. It doesn't actually want to do any of that. It's just a consequence of the action of running business and being affiliated with the business, the size of the business Amazon is. Yes, you get all of the benefits of selling. You get all of the lovely traffic. You don't have to do much advertising in, the reselling model. And even to a certain extent, private label, you still don't have to do as much as you would do if you were building a brand outside of Amazon. So you have these massive benefits, but you also have the con side of it, which is they fall foul to a lot more than you would if you were building a business outside of Amazon. And as a result of that, as a seller on that platform, they can't apply one rule for me, one rule for Matt, one rule for Simon, one rule for Claire. They can't apply it for different. It has to be swept across the board. So that's one of the negatives that you do have to take into account when you sell on the Amazon platform, for sure. Simon said, I've noticed more negative feedback on seller storefronts. In what context, Simon? Do you mean from a delivery? Because I think that might have actually got said when we were talking about delivery point of view. Be interesting to see. I've noticed an increase in negative feedback as well, but I don't necessarily think it's down to logistics. I've just noticed, I don't know if Amazon are courting more feedback at the moment, or people are using more tools to get feedback from customers, but I've noticed an increase in feedback, definitely. James, not Alex. Second time I've done that to you, James. Sorry. I don't know. Alex must be a name that just pops out at me. James says, best start of the month in terms of sales for us. The start of Q4 is going well. Brilliant. Do you know what? I'm not noticing a lot of negative in the space, and I know we've spoken about this a lot. Whilst not everything is sunshine and rainbows, of course, but everyone appears to be heading into Q4 in a relatively good position. And even the people that aren't in a good position, there seems to be options to kind of pivot and do a few different things, which is really good to see. I'm really curious to see how this Q4 is going to turn out, because is it one that we're going to pump up and kind of think it's going to be great, and in reality it might suck? I don't know.
Could do.
I don't think so.
It's really interesting because obviously there's a lot of talk about cost of living and things, but it's very difficult to kind of relate the media to the real world. So I don't know how it's going to have an impact. I genuinely don't know how much of an impact this cost of living crisis is having on people. Personally, it's not having an impact on myself, but I know some people are badly affected by it. So it's an interesting one to see. I don't know if people are going to be cutting back. I think generally people seem optimistic. There is an expenditure issue in terms of people's bills, but I think people seem generally optimistic in job security for certain. People feel secure in their jobs, and I think that is the biggest impact on customer spending, is when people feel that their jobs are at risk, which I think they felt during COVID, because nobody really knew what was going on. yes, the government was pumping loads of financial support, but I think everybody kind of knew that it wasn't going to last, and COVID may well last, and what was going to be the impact, and were they going to have a job to go back to. Whereas I think this cost of living crisis is just more of an adaptation for people rather than it necessarily being a fear that they will lose their jobs and things.
I find what really interesting is the fact that we're still talking about the impacts of COVID, and so many years later, what an amazing impact that it's, by the way, I mean amazing as in not good. I mean, like, how something is so impactful. Like I said, we all thought Brexit was going to be the big thing that we'd be talking about for years. That's really kind of irrelevant now, with everything that's happened. I mean, obviously, if you're part of the Hive, Matt has done an EU course in there, which is something that I think people are really going to capitalize on next year, getting back to selling into Europe, because obviously everyone's just been kind of a little bit more I think people are willing to be a bit more explorative now in terms of the markets that they want to sell on, whether it globally or different platforms or things like that. So anyone that's interested in selling on Europe or building that part of the business, you need to join the Hive, because we've already covered that. And whilst it's not going to be for everyone right now, if it is part of that in the future, everyone's already transferring or sending their business over to America. But we always want to be quite a few steps ahead in terms of the new US in a couple of years will be the EU. Well, we want to build people up in that position beforehand, before all of the waves of people. Don't get me wrong, I sell in the US, but we've been selling there for some time, and I can see the impact of us talking about selling in the US and what it's happened and how many people are coming over to the US market. So we always like to stay ahead for sure.
Yeah,
I think it might be Sean who's saying that, but I can't see the other group. Apologies. Saying about UK households are poorer, but more people getting credit cards like Americans are doing. To be fair, they've been doing it for years. And I'm not saying it won't pop at some point, but I think the pop and the impact will not be as dramatic as it has been previously, because I think what we also take into account as well, or we do not take into account, when the economy goes pop and has gone pop previously, historically in the past, people have been restricted to working 9 to 5 in jobs, and they have been, or someone said, got to go, have a good day. Yeah, have a good day. People didn't have second incomes or not enjoy or have two people working in a household as well. The last time, if you think about it, when doom and gloom massively happened, I'm not talking about 2008, because again, it was one of those, I don't want to make light of it, but it was one of those type of things. It didn't really impact a lot of people at that point. It was more a case of not like the 80s recession did, which was like devastating. My parents got through it, but so many more didn't, and ended up in negative equity and all this and all that. When you think back to that point in the 80s, probably two of the earning potential earners were not working. Probably only one was at that point, whereas now, 95% of households, probably two of the adults are working and bringing two incomes in. So I think that makes a difference. I think credit's more available, obviously, than it was then to get people out temporarily. I think more people have second incomes, side hustles, investments in terms of, some people might do stock trading or whatever. I just don't know. And I'm going to put myself out there to the wrath of some people. I just don't think we're going to see the same impact. I don't think we're going to see the economy ever crash in the way that it did before in the 80s.
I think people are way more entrepreneurial now. In most individuals have a certain level of entrepreneurialism. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to start running big businesses, but a lot of people, there's so many more people work for themselves now. The kind of idea that you would work in a big corporate job for say Barclays for the rest of your life. Like my father worked for Barclays, and when he got that job, he probably thought this is it now. This is my job for life. Whereas now, most people who go to a job in a big corporate probably actively go, I'll mark this for 5 years and I'll jump and increase my salary or whatever. But it's like, what's really interesting, I think what really changes the internet is a massive game changer, because it enables people to make more money so much more easily. You know, in the 80s, if you wanted to make more money, unless you literally went out on a weekend doing something or you got another job, that was it. Whereas now you can drive for Uber in the evenings. You literally just get your phone out. Most people, everyone's probably got a car, I imagine. Get your phone out, right? You can drive on Uber for on a weekend and an evening, and you can, you know, earn X amount of money to cover the increase. You can start an Amazon business. You say we obviously aim in the Hive to grow people's businesses, but you could make a decent income on the side doing retail arbitrage. You go to Tesco's every week anyway. Well, why not pick up these extra bits and make 200-300 quid a month more by, you know, buying retail arbitrage bits and sell them on Amazon? That's covered your mortgage increase. So there's lots of little ways, I think, that people can really improve their income and help themselves, which I think, like you say, is a big game changer.
Yeah, do extra bits. You know, Simon stole the words out of my mouth there. People, now there's more accessibility to marketplace. If you get into it, like say for instance you got into a bit of a bind and you had to find 200 quid really quickly, well, you can sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, on Vinted, on eBay, you know, whereas I'm not saying it's long term to be able to do that, you know, for poor financial decisions, you know, continual poor financial decisions, but it could prevent someone from going into a spiral, or, you know, paying off a credit card, or you know, something like that. I just don't think we're ever going to be in that type of position again. From that point of view, there's too much. I mean, it depends what you believe, obviously, and you know, I'm not going to get into that, of course. But like I said, I just don't think we're ever going to be in that position. Something else, extra incomes, like you've said. I know someone that works in a, you know, full-time job, but on the side, never going to leave that full-time job, but they pay for holidays and cars and things like that. They go around building IKEA furniture for people in their spare time. You know, they go and pick it up, they build it at home, and they take it back, you know, whenever they do it, because nobody likes building IKEA furniture. You know, no one like, there's always, we live in a world now that if you don't like doing something, and if you are someone who is enterprising enough to know what people do not like doing, you will always be okay. I'm always going to stand by that. You don't have to build a 7-figure Amazon business. And I think naturally what's happened is, I actually think COVID has done the average Amazon seller a bit of a disservice, because what it's done is it's made and shown people who probably would never have built that size of business, and were quite happy with a side hustle type business, you know, maybe didn't have aspirations of leaving their job or anything like that. I think what it did is it gave everybody a glimpse of what could be, but it was never sustainable. Not everyone builds a 7-figure business. Not everybody leaves their job to do this full time. You know, it isn't that. The option's there if you want it, I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, it's not for everyone. It's a gateway business. I stand by that and always will do. That you may not stay in this part of it, but hopefully it might open your eyes to some sort of enterprise in your life. You know, that's the way that I see it. So it should never not be. I think too many people look down their nose on this business, to be perfectly honest. Whereas I think it has the potential to be whatever it wants to be. But at the same time, if it's not for you, hopefully it's opened your eyes into something that you may not have thought of before, or may not have explored before. So, you know, we're definitely back in the realms of now it can be built as a side hustle, can pay for your holidays a year, because it's got the opportunity to be able to do it. But it can be a 7-figure business as well. What a great time we live in, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You can make it what you want it to be. Exactly. And I think, but also that's a really important point. I think people should also realize what they want it to be. I think people in the community get very, I won't say upset, but you know, sometimes disheartened when people put like 7-figure, oh, I've made £1 million this year, and people get very disheartened. Why am I not making £1 million? But it's really important to sort of understand what you want out of the business, because that might not be your goal, and there's no point getting upset because you're not making making £1 million a year if that's never your goal. And it's important to recognize what your goal is and build that business around what you want it to be, and that will dictate everything. It dictates whether you use a warehouse, whether you prep yourself, whether you use prep centers, what sourcing methods you do. It's all very, very relevant to what the end goal is.
I really I think one of the big things I've seen and will continue to see, like I said, I almost think this year and next year will be the regression of this business for a lot of people. Whereas who was I talking about this with? I really can't remember who I was talking about it. And apologies. I know it wasn't you, Matt. But it was someone, I know it wasn't the person I was speaking to this morning, but I was talking to someone about the VA situation, and I can't remember what it was, whether it was publicly or private conversation. So can't remember that either. But we're kind of being forced to take VAs over the last couple of years in the business. And what I mean by that, nobody, is physically forcing anyone to do it. But you go through a time where there's hot trends on Amazon. So USA is a hot trend at the moment. A couple of years ago, over the last couple of years, it's been outsourced passive businesses, which has got a lot of people into trouble, by the way, I would say at that point. So there's always trends on Amazon, and one of them has been VAs. And the trouble is, the reality of it is, most people don't need a VA in their business, if they're going to run it at a certain level. So I'm going to be a very unpopular person after the end of saying this. But if you're running this business as a side hustle, and you do not have aspirations of doing something at a certain point, should you even be considering that? Should you even be considering a prep center? So I think the regression that we will see is prep centers closing their doors, because I think people will be pulling. Preppers become quite expensive. Prep center wars have finished. Some will always be successful, of course. But I think people will start bringing their prep back in house, and people doing more things themselves within their. I think we'll go back to that. COVID made outsourcing hot, and it might not necessarily be the right point. I've physically seen outsourcing ruin people's businesses because they've not been in their business.
Yeah, they this is a really great point here. People can sell $1 million, but can be making a small profit. One of the things I like to say, the only certainty with more sales is more costs. That's people think I'm making $1 million and therefore making loads more money, but I think it's genuinely easier to make, say, 50k profit on 150k's worth of sales than it is to make 50k on $1 million, because you have so many more costs. You have staffing. You will need a warehouse to do £1 million. I don't think it's possible to do £1 million without a warehouse. And if you're using a prep center, then you're paying a lot on prep, and it's very
you're paying too much.
You're paying too
much.
If
you're doing $1 million, you shouldn't be using a prep center, really.
Exactly,
because you're putting out way too much in prep.
Yeah, and from a sort of sourcing point of view, it's way easier to get 75k's worth of stock with, say, 50-60% margin on clearance deals, or your own bundles or whatever, than it is to do get £500,000 worth of stock. You're going to have to go to the big distributors. You're going to have to lower your margins, which then can mean less profit, but you've still got all your expenses. So more sales is not always more profit. It's really, really important to say. Now, my business is a good example. My business does about 3 million turnover. I could do 10 million turnover, but I'd make no money. So what's the point? I have the resources for that. I have the cash flow for that. I have the people for that. But what's the point? I would far rather run a smaller business that made more money than a bigger business that made less money. So and that's one of the things I think we really teach in the Hive. And also having higher margins gives you much more stability, because when these bumps in the road happen, these shocks happen, Amazon for me, I do a lot of audio products. They move the category of audio from electronic to electronic accessories from computers. Now, that might sound like a subtle change, but the fee went from 7% to 15.3%. So if I didn't have 40, 50% margins, I was working on 20% margins. That's my margins gone from 20 to 13, and then I take my finance costs off 3%. I'm on 10% margin, plus my returns 5%, plus my salary. I'm making no money, So it's really, really important that, you do have decent margins, which is, I think, what we really try and push in the Hive is sourcing methods that create margin and not just turnover.
Yeah, absolutely. Serge said, I tried to systemize. I don't know if you mean the company or you tried to systemize and they had insane charges. Not quite sure what you meant by that. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Prep is they're so, and it's going to become even more expensive, guys. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the company. So it's going to become even more expensive. And what you're being told by certain sellers is, oh, you should do this and you should do that and you should do this, because at the end of the day, it's always something that you have to do what works for you. There is nothing wrong. I don't see any reason whatsoever with Mark Penn on the call. He'll appreciate this. You cannot scale to 7 figures in your bedroom. Be a bedroom bandit. You can do it. It's possible to be able to. You don't need a warehouse. You don't need this. You don't need that. Yes, it's going to be hard, from your bedroom without the use of a prep center or something. But you want to ask yourself, do you need it? Do you need that? Is it better to be in control? Because what I see is a lot of recklessness at the moment in terms of, I'm going to get on my soapbox now, in terms of everyone being told what they should do. You should have this, and you're not a successful business if you don't have X amount of VAs, if you're not using a prep center, if you don't have a warehouse, if you don't do it like this. Do you know what? Sometimes, like Matt quite said, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should. And, I think that's the most important thing. A good example of us in the US, that income stream in the US at the moment, I have seen over the last 6 months in particular, a lot of trappings in the business, a lot of negatives in that income stream. And I wouldn't put all of my eggs in that. There's too many variables. Anyone that is, and that goes for any part of the business, not just that particular model of selling in the US when you're not based in the US. I wouldn't do that. I had aspirations to grow that to 7 figures, and it can do, and we will be able to do it in 12-month period. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But there's too many things that can go wrong in that. So we won't, if that makes sense. We'll keep it low. Well, not low turn. I'm still talking reasonable levels of turnover, but whereas we might be talking 7 figures, we might be talking half of that now, but keep the margins high. There's so much more protection in higher margin there is in higher turnover. So I think that's something to consider. And I'd rather look at, repeating that in another market as opposed to, keeping it all in the same one again. So you've always got to be doing something. Protection's a big thing. If I'm going to preach on something at the moment, it's not you should have a VA. It's not you should use a prep center. You should be doing things to protect your business at the moment, because I'll tell you what, this glimpse that's happened over the last 12 to 24 months for a lot of people, if you don't protect yourself, you're going to be gutted if you get rugged, basically, which is, a lot of people are doing at the moment. A lot of people are losing their businesses at the moment because they've taken their eye off the ball. They've listened to the gurus. Use a prep center, systemize. And by the way, that's not me saying the company. I mean, as in, processes and things like, and do this and do that. I was all right in COVID when people were going for big sales, big margins. But now, different strategy you guys need for next year, for sure. All right for this Q4, fine. But market's changed again.
Yes, and it will continue to keep changing. It goes in cycles. It changes all the time. COVID was a very big growth period where a lot of people made a lot of money very easily. But it was easy. You could literally walk in because people were scared to go out of the houses. People were scared to go out of the houses. You could literally just buy something from Tesco's and stick it on Amazon because people weren't going to go out of the house, and they'd buy it on Amazon to get delivered. That gameplay is gone now. There's more sellers in the market. The ease of stock has gone. Amazon has changed. Amazon was very forgiving during COVID, like very forgiving, you know, in terms of leniency and trying to help sellers. I think they were very good at trying to help sellers in a lot of ways. That leniency's gone now. You know, like someone said, more brands are issuing IPs. Exactly. Brands are back on it. The staff are back on it. They're trying to grow the businesses. They're going to be more protective over the brands. During COVID, everyone was just more focused on surviving than they were trying to thrive. Well, one of the ways to thrive is to get rid of your competition, isn't it? So yes, you're going to see a lot more IP claims. You're going to see a lot more underhand. Well, I think one thing massively, I was going to say, at the moment, we are seeing a lot of underhand tactics because the big volume sellers who were working on very small margins have found that their margins have now gone through, whether it be interest rate increases, just the competitiveness of the market, current situations, all these variables, and they're now resorting to dirty underhand tactics to survive.
Absolutely. And this is what I mean. There's been shifts in trends and everything this year. Big trend of next year will be brands, definitely. There's going to people that don't know what they're doing on the market are going to be that are not employing different selling strategies are going to be squeezed out. It's as simple as that. Might not happen immediately, but we've seen the process of it happening already. So we always talk about Amazon in cycles, and we're in a period of change at the moment. They generally come every 2 or 3 years, and we're definitely going into a new one now. But good news is, as always, if you're in the hive, you're covered. We know it's being covered. It's fine. Of course it is. I'm not going to say anything else, but no, it genuinely is. So that's what we do. We've all been through this before. We know static, you know, nothing changes. What I will pick up on here about, you know, prep centers and things like that. At the same point, we're talking about certain prep centers being expensive as well. But generally, in my experience, when a prep center's been around a long time and it's expensive, there's a reason why. That is that it's generally a good prep center. So, you know, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. If you are looking at a prep center, I would not be looking at one based on cost. It's somebody who you know, has been around for a long time and somebody who is going to support you in your business, and you know, you're going to pay for that service. It's as simple as that. Prep is not cheap. It's not cheap for the operator, and it's not cheap for whoever's going to be buying that service. If you're looking for a prep center, expect to, you know, lose money and have lost stock and issues and things like that. So yeah. Okay, we might be talking about something slightly different, but yeah, I just wanted to play devil's advocate there a little bit as well, because like I said, yeah, I wouldn't be, and yeah, again, I'll bring that up as well. Hidden charges. I always say that to people. If someone looks on the outset cheap, you can bet your life you're going to have a lot of hidden charges. I mean, I have seen some fulfillment charges for some prep center that I think, Jesus Christ. Oh, sorry, am I going to get censored again? I think, what the hell are they? I know it's done. And I think, gee, what the hell are they prepping their stuff in? Are they prepping it in cashmere packaging or something like that? Sometimes the bigger the prep center, you're paying for all those staff as well. So you got to employ some common sense.
Don't forget how much staffing now costs. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, you know, inflation's 10%. People are putting wages up 10%. We're putting wages up hugely. We're putting huge wages increases, and that's not. Well, I have to, don't I? It's you've got to remain competitive as an employer. So if people's salaries have gone up 20% in the past 2 years, you can damn well bet your prep center costs are going to go up 20%. And another thing, we're not slugging prep centers off. It's very much this is why I said at the beginning of the call, you must understand what you want your business to do, because prep centers work for certain people, they don't work for others, and they offer a valuable service. So it's really important you understand what you want your business to be and whether this needs to work for you. But I bet a lot of you who self-prep don't value your time. Of course it's cheaper because you're doing it for free. So are you actually valuing your time? Are you valuing your opportunity cost? If I spend 3 hours prepping this product, what's my opportunity cost? Am I going to be losing 3 hours of sourcing that can make me $3,000? So your prep costs you $3,000. Think of it this way, you know, there's no right or wrong answer here. Bringing prep in-house is for certain cheaper. But again, if you don't have anything better to do, then fine, do it. You do it yourself. Like you say, do you need VAs? Do you need all these services? But if you've got a load of urgent tasks that are going to be, that is above your minimum wage. So your minimum wage is say £20 an hour. You want to earn £20 an hour. You can make more than that doing something else in your business rather than prep. Absolutely should outsource it or get somebody in to do it or whatever it is. So it's there's no right or wrong answer here, but it's really, really important.
No,
to
absolutely not. And me and Noor here, we're soul sisters for sure. And by the way, this is why we have these conversations. We generally, and it's why I formed a partnership with Matt and Johnny, and we also have Matt Cromie as well, and some of the other people we work with, is because we've all got different opinions. But I always tell people, don't be influenced by people on just one opinion. At the end of the day, Matt and I sometimes will have, we've had arguments in the past about, this is right or this is right or whatever. Everybody, it's different things for different people at different stages in their business. I stand by, if you're doing 7 figures and there's not a reason you're using a prep center and you do not want to scale beyond 7 figures, and you want to scale beyond 7 figures, then you should be considering your own fulfillment. It's as simple as that, because you won't get much past 7 figures. Put it like this, I don't know many people, and I know a lot of sellers, a lot of very successful sellers, that do not have their own operations past $1 million. It's as simple as that, regardless of whatever you want. It's purely because the prep just becomes so expensive at that level. It's as simple as that. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. But I'm soul sisters with Noor for sure, because at the end of the day, I will never do my own prep. I'm not allowed to touch the prep. The last time I did it, I sent it to the wrong fulfillment center. So from that point of view, Noor says she can't count. I can't count. I put it in the wrong place. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't need bubble wrap. That's something some people should physically never be allowed near prep, and I am one of those. So I'm not advocating self-prep. I'm just saying different strokes for different folks, essentially.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer. It's, like you say, depends. Situation, geographical situation. But again, devil's advocate, if you're in central London, your warehouse cost is going to be massive compared to somebody in the northeast, northwest. If you're in the northeast of England, you probably could get a warehouse for cheaper than prep. Whereas if you live in central London, if you live in Kensington, maybe a prep center is cheaper for you, because renting a warehouse anywhere in that area of London is going to be astronomical.
I'll tell you what, I don't get FOMO over many things in life, but I absolutely do over warehouse pricing costs geographically, because I tell you what, actually, I joke about it, but it's quite unfair practice, to be perfectly honest.
It's a joke, but it's not funny, is it?
No, absolutely not. I joke about it, but it's not funny. Whereas if I move to certain parts of the country, then I could have a 10,000 square foot warehouse and pay the same as what I'm paying, for one that are, 10 times as small. So therefore, my opportunity in business is not the same as someone else's in a different part of the country. So it's why prep centers, for want of, I'm stereotyping, probably in the north of England are going to be cheaper than they are in the south of England, from that point of view. So there we go.
Is that Mark put that? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I knew it was Mark. Stop showing
700k. But yeah, that's half. And 700k.
I was going to say warehouse tour, but it'll be Mark walking around in like a room this size.
But that for where Mark is, he can have his warehouse and probably half his staff paid for the same cost as just a warehouse in London. And Amazon is not a geographic business.
I think for that cost, and knowing where Mark lives, I think he's going to become the king of he's going to become the king of that area, because it's that big, he'll have his own kingdom. It's going to be that size. If you're paying 700k a year. But yeah, different strokes for different folks. The US is more expensive than London. There's always someone that's more expensive than, you know, kind of it's a little bit like, yes, we live in what would be considered a more affluent area in the south of England, but it's actually not because of, you know, commercial is not. The reason why commercial is so expensive down here is because there's such a lack of it, because land is so much more valuable for residential use than it is commercial use here, whereas everything is a bit more spread out up north, so therefore there's not such a premium on the cost of land and what it is used for. So we don't pay a lot because we live in Bournemouth. We pay a lot because there's a lack of commercial space in this area, for sure. Imagine that, 700 grand bill. But that's what I mean. I consider myself to be, you know, relatively successful in this space, but that's not for me. You know, I wouldn't want to do it. It's not for me. And there are things that you can do, but it doesn't mean you should at the end of the day. So I want in everything that we influence, and I don't want to be telling you guys. I want to show you what is possible and not tell you what you should be doing, because it's different, you know, different strokes for different folks. Exactly. And anyone that's telling you you should do this at this point in your business, no, you should look at what options are available and choose which one is best for you, not based on what someone else tells you to do. And I've seen that a lot over the last year or so, and I see it happening quite a lot at the moment. A lot of agenda is being pushed, you know, for outsourcing again. And I've seen more businesses destroyed over outsourcing and people coming out of their business than I have people growing their businesses as a result of it.
The problem, I think, particularly with the outsourcing is people hand it over and don't do anything with it. And how do you expect an outsourcer who doesn't live in this country to ever grow your business for you? Now, you can systemize it in a certain way, which may make it work. But I think a lot of people who do outsource their business in this way end up failing, and the business gets run into the ground. Good example is business is built on relationships and it's people. If you outsource all of your sourcing to somebody in another country who's never spoken to that supplier, how are you ever meant to build that relationship? How are you ever meant to build that bond? And I truly believe that one of my successes is from my relationship building with people, going and meeting them face to face, going to their businesses, going for coffee, going for meals, going to the pub. That's where my business success has come from. It's not come from these other areas. That's where it's come from, because it's particularly in a reselling business that you're only as good as the stock that comes through the door. You know, you can obviously you can help your sales in various areas and things we teach in the Hive, but at the end of the day, it comes from the stock that comes through the door.
And you know, it's interesting actually. 2 weeks today, I'll be at the Seller Festival event, where I'll be speaking about the compounding effect of business. And there's going to be lots of different, various different people speaking there. Al from SAS is going to be there. Norm from SDK is going to be there, as well as, you know, TikTok are going to be there. People from Amazon, you know, it's going to be quite a diverse kind of mix. And what I will stand by, the fact of, for an event like that, more than anything else, is that is where business is built, and that is where longevity so longevity in business is formed. I know that the people that will attend an event like that, or some of the other meetups and things that we go, are the people I'm going to be speaking to in 3 years' time, because they understand at what level business is created. Certain people at this moment in time that have influence will not have influence in X amount of time in the way that they run their business, because they're not going to sustain in the way that they run their business. So always, if you're going to listen to someone in what they're doing, you know, check out the amount of time they've been in business. Check out, you know, what they're doing. You know, I was just about to say, I know I'm broadcasting from, you know, a small room, but this is my office, obviously. but are people doing what they say they're doing? You know, that type of thing. Always, 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 like Mark says, be careful what you wish for. At the end of the day, more money, more problems. You know, there is very, sometimes that can happen. Some of the people that run the best businesses I know do not run the highest turnovers, myself included. I will actually point that out. We've always run a high margin business from that point of view, and it's always kept us protected. So I'm not interested in your, you know, 8 figures and this and that, but it doesn't mean that I don't learn from people like Mark, like Matt, and people who, you know, you grab what works for you, you employ what works for you. So, you know, listen to your gut. Don't allow someone to lead you into a business that's not right for you.
No, like a good example is the US Europe thing. Like the US works for you. I've got zero intention of going into the US. Now, the thing is, people said go to the US, and obviously there's lots of margin there. But for me, I'm all about Europe, and that's what I think gives us a you know, dynamicism in the hive, breadth of experience. But we won't tell people to do either or. We will give you the information and say, you decide what's best for you. You decide what you think is going to work best for your business and your goals.
Absolutely. I can already see it. It's something like that. It's something, but no, what I was going to say is, so if you're around in a few weeks time, a couple of weeks from now, you're anywhere within a couple of hour drive of North London. Amanda Hill is running an event called Seller Festival. And I think there's only day tickets left now. I think it's about £129. That covers both days. So if you can get there, or, you know, if you want to find a hotel outside or something like that, for the cost of 129 quid and the cost of a ticket, then I would absolutely try and make your way to something like that. We'll be there. Well, I'll be there. Matt won't. Matt's off on a jolly somewhere, I expect. And me and Matt Cromie will be there, definitely arguing about something, no doubt. And you know, it's a great opportunity to be able to just network, talk about things in person that you can't talk about in a digital virtual you know, kind of format. So I dropped the link here. I don't know where Cindy is today. Normally she's my link dropper, but I expect she's busy, so Cindy's going to be there. You know, the best mod around. She's going to be there. There's lots of different people going to be there talking about different types of business. And yes, sometimes you look at an event and you think, well, I don't want to hear about that. It's not about that. It's about the connections that you form. I have met people at events that I have formed partnerships with. It's as simple as that. I've met people at events that I, you know, end up working with, or end up helping, or they end up helping me, or something like that. So we haven't been, oh, hang on a sec. Oh, I'm in trouble. Sorry, Phil. I didn't realize there was other mods watching. I'm sorry.
Everyone's the Wilcos.
Yeah.
If you want to do a meetup, get yourself to your local Wilcos, because there's probably at least 3 Amazon sellers in there right now.
Exactly. Everyone's down your Wilcos today for sure. Actually, a lot of opportunity. Do you know what, Matt? I'm almost wondering if we run the RA thing again at some point, because a lot of people I'm speaking to at the moment are literally RAing the life out of stuff at the moment.
It's going particularly good. There's in terms of, we discussed at the time, we did it in summer, didn't we? But there's a particularly good element of RA at this time of year for sort of speculation, whereby prices are still low on certain things, and if you play that game right and you get the toy of the year, you're making bank, literally all the way to the bank. Whereas, I mean, there's risks in it, of course, but there's a very sort of niche time now, sort of basically September, October, where you know, you can speculate and accumulate.
Absolutely. I miss RA. Do you know what? Honestly, Mark Penn has got one of the funniest RA stories. When I first interviewed him years ago about, you know, what his pregnant wife, he was making his pregnant wife buy, you know, in Tesco's and checking out on RA's solid. Literally, you won't believe this, last night I was doing a bit of RA. I actually was, I promise. So it's there are some shops that are pretty hot at the moment, for sure. Oh, who's at McDonald's? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be on a diet. Now you've put it in my head. McDonald's, eating lunch, doing a bit of RA, loving it, for sure. Yeah, easy peasy. Easy peasy. Nothing's easy in Amazon, but yeah, great opportunity for RA. Seeing it a lot at the moment for sure. But you have to do it in a certain way. I think it's not just a case of popping down your local Tesco's and doing a bit of kamikaze RA. It's strategic from that point of view. Nerf guns in a minivan, definitely. Right. Okay. So yeah, I was going to do a little bit of a plug for that. So I'll do a post a bit later, but if anyone is in around that sort of North London area, in 2 weeks' time, I think it's the Monday and Tuesday, for the cost of what would be a meal out or something like that, you can come down and network with, a small but experienced group of sellers that hopefully will bring some valuable value to you. So I'll pop the link in this feed afterwards, but then I'll also do a post about it as well. Be good to see as many of you as possible. An RA festival. What's that? Oh, there she is. Cindy's back. Is Wilco shut? Are you on a lunch? Cindy's going to be like, what? What's going on? Why are we talking about Wilco's? I know you're coming. So that's what I said. I already said. I said you were coming, Cindy. So it's going to be a good couple of days for sure. But we'll talk about that, a bit more over the next couple of days. So yeah, let's wrap it up. Next week I'm going to be back, and then obviously the week after I'm going to be at the Seller Festival. So yeah, Matt, someone's going to need to cover. Never mind the Bible, so I don't know who it's going to be. So next week I'm really looking forward to. I've got a guest next week. I've got Al Carlton's better half, Alison, is going to be joining us of SaaS fame. So she is going to be on next week, and we're going to be talking in detail about what it takes to run a company like SaaS, to be the person behind the scenes, also to be in a business marriage as well. So it's not going to turn into a marriage counseling session, but sometimes over the years, people have, or talk to me in particular about, how we make business work as a married couple, because a lot of people's dreams is to start a business and then maybe have their partner integrate into it at a later stage. Easier said than done, essentially. So, we're going to talk about all those different types of elements. So I think it's definitely going to be a good one. And Alison, of course, is going to be at that event in 2 weeks' time as well with Al. So really, really looking forward to that for sure. And it's set in a beautiful setting as well. So hopefully it's going to be a nice sunny day and weather like this. So yeah, Alison's going to be on next week. I don't know who's going to be on the week after that, but it doesn't matter anyway. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for us today. But here we are. We are in Q4. It is upon us. It's going to be a good one this year. I've got no doubt. And I want as many people to capitalize it on as much as possible. We are going to be closing the doors to the Hive at the current price. So that's something else to consider. And tomorrow, I'm going to be in Luke Dugan's group, Mr. FBA, at 1:00. For anyone that may be considering joining the Hive but don't really know what it's about, drop me a message and I'll send you a link to that group. I'm going to be spending about an hour with Luke, just going through all of the, the benefits of the Hive, what we do in there, what we get up to, and just telling you a little bit more about it and why it could be beneficial for your business.
For sure. So, I think it's beneficial for most businesses.
I think there's something for everyone, and there will continue to be something for everyone. I mean, obviously, we haven't even implemented the software yet, so which is ever closer every day that goes past. So, we really do consider it to offer a lot of value for what we do, definitely. So, yeah, we'd love to have as many people in there as possible, of course. So that's it from us this week. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy the start of Q4. Really great to see everyone's sales are on the up. hopefully, let's look. Yeah, we'll look towards Prime Day next week. That's going to be interesting. I didn't know it was then, to be honest. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when it quite was. So be interesting to track that, to track how that's going to be next year, next week, and what impact that's going to have. But in the meantime, that's it from us. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Tim?
Oh, okay. Yeah, will do. Nick, I'll send it over for sure. Cool. Okay. Have a great week, everyone. Bye. Bye.